Hello YouTube, this is Neon. Today I am going to be talking about, I'm going to entitle this talk, Victimology, the Great Paradox. I'm not going to try to define victimology beyond saying that it deals with people who have been victimized by crime, essentially. And as far as the Great Paradox, I'm gonna illustrate what I mean by the Great Paradox versus trying to give a brief statement as to what the Great Paradox is, or defining what this Great Paradox is. I'm just going to give a personal story from my life that will illustrate what I'm talking about as being the Great Paradox. So, when I was a child, at age 7, an accident had occurred in our family where a younger sibling had nearly been killed. I would say it was almost miraculous, this sibling's survival. He was in the hospital for 7 days. The sheriffs were called, ambulance obviously was called, I think a fire truck came out, and in the end, CPS. I don't know why my shorts are not tight enough. I need to tighten up my shorts. Y'all can't see it, but that's what my hands was doing. They tightening up my shorts. So, you know, the whole cavalry was called out as a result of this near accidental killing, if you will. When the Child Protective Services came out because the home was not cared for, we were not properly cared for, it was infested with roaches, so they ended up taking all of us, minus the sibling who something had befallen. Y'all, if y'all watching my videos, y'all know that I always put my towel, I put my towel right here, see that? Y'all can't see, there's a black line right there. I always put my towel right there, and I done forgot to do that today. It's done. Wait, no. There, now it's done. Okay. So, we wound up in foster homes for, I believe, 11 days. We had all been taken to an interrogation room where apparently, maybe I shouldn't say interrogation room, but into a room where they were asking us questions as far as whether we were abused, and I have no recollection of this. I'm going to go back to that a little bit later. So jump ahead 8 years. I grew up in a very abusive home. Lots of beatings. I was not beaten the most often nor the most severely, but it wasn't off by leaps and bounds. But because we were, those of us who were beaten severely, all of us. But one was beaten the most severely, and really almost to the point of being killed, like blood and all this stuff. But sometimes that applied to me. But nevertheless, I was severely beaten and traumatized until I went to foster home at age 15. I had told one of my, a friend of the cohort of my biological mother, that he would beat us, and he had beaten us throughout my life. And he confronted him. So when I got home, not knowing that he had told him what I had said, he smashed something in my face, busted my lip. My lip bled and was dripping blood. So that was that. Generally speaking, if we were beaten till we were bleeding, usually at some point that's when the beating would stop. This was up to perhaps about the age of 10 or 11, where the beatings generally weren't bloody after that as often, because they didn't want to leave marks, because teachers had to report obvious signs of abuse. So, but we still got bloody beatings. It just wasn't as often, and it wasn't like to the face or to the parts of the body that could show. So I had said that I was going to turn my bio mom, because that woman is not my mother. Let's face it, ladies, almost any woman can have a child, but some of the best mothers, they're adoptive mothers, and they never had a child. They're adoptive mothers who maybe couldn't have a child, or chose not to have a biological child. And these are some of the best mothers in the world. Being a mother isn't about giving birth or carrying a child to term. Being a mother is how you raise the child and love and edify and build up a child so that child can fly from the nest and soar, hopefully, right? Hopefully that's what the mother, the father do. That to me is what makes a mother or a father, not giving birth. So my biological mother, I had said that I was going to turn her in because she was the one who always orchestrated these beatings. She was so obese that she would tire of beating us very quickly. She was morbidly obese. So she would have her cohort, or sometimes cohorts, beat us. And I'm using the word cohort because I have to be as discreet as I possibly can in these recordings, really to protect myself. I don't know what the limits are of the law. I don't, I did turn her in. All of this, what I'm saying, is documented, but I have my reasons to be as discreet as possible. So many of us, when the people who are supposed to take care of us mistreat us, the more they mistreat us, the more we love them. It's that old adage that rejection is the world's greatest aphrodisiac. So one of my siblings heard what happened, and because she hadn't inflicted the beating, she just permitted the beating to happen with no repercussions to the person who beat me. A biological sibling who was this sibling themselves were abused, but were very, very close to my biological mother. This sibling said, why are you going to turn in mom? That woman is what I refer to that woman as, when she didn't beat you. So as he was snitching on me, the cohort who originally beat me heard it, beat me up again, at the top of we were in this rickety old two-story house. He had me in a headlock. He threw me down this flight of stairs from a headlock, just tossed me like a piece of trash. He clawed up my neck, grabbing me like that. He put a pretty good gash in my side, in my thigh, where he threw a bicycle tire without the inner tube or the tire on it. It was just the metal part. He threw that and hit me. At which point, a few days later, with the help of a neighbor, I turned that woman in, as well as her cohort, and I wound up in foster homes. In and out of foster homes from that point of 15 through 18. The CPS worker who took the case and who interviewed us and did all the arrangements to have us put in a foster home was the same woman who 8 years prior had interviewed us and was the or one of the social workers in charge when I was 7, when the tragedy happened when I was 7. So she told me at 15, she says, I knew you guys were being beaten. She said, I knew you were beaten at age 7. She told me that I had all of you in a room, and I asked you, she said that she had asked us if we were being beaten. And she said, we all denied it. We denied it, period. We wouldn't admit to anything, that they didn't beat us. And she said she knew we were being beaten. She said, because you guys had scratches and cuts and bruises all over you. She said, but none of you would admit to anything, and there wasn't really much we could do about it. We kept you in the foster home till they cleaned up the home, and that was that. So in a sense, she was blaming us. And this is the great paradox in victimology. She was blaming us because, and I at that time was 7 years old, because we protected our abusers. When a person is abused, and it's not just sexually, when a mother and or a father and or stepmother, stepfather, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever combination, when they're abusing children, they groom children for the abuse. They tell young, impressionable minds that are already traumatized through beatings, you tell someone and I'll kill you. This is someone who just beat the hell out of a young child. You tell someone and I'll beat you. If you go into foster homes, find out what you think you're getting beat, you think you got it bad here, watch what happens when you go into a foster home. They beat you and you're crying and tell you, shut up, stop crying, you don't have nothing to cry about. Literally playing with a child's mind and destroying their mind. Abusing them, beating them, but they're not allowed to cry. Because their crying is annoying to the abuser. Am I as a 7-year-old child, am I going to trust some stranger, or am I going to trust this person, the only person that I know, who at that time I still consider to be a mother, who there's something called trauma bonding, where victims will bond with their perpetrator. It doesn't always happen, but it's very common, through this traumatic experience of abuse. There were all of these factors, the fear of them being omnipresent and killing us if we were to tell, like they said, to which we tried to protect them. Not that I don't recall any of this experience, but I knew she knew what she was talking about, was telling the truth, because she knew all the facts of what had happened at age 7. I don't recall us being put in a room as she described, but I know she's telling the truth. But what happens where people are trying to help people to get rescued, whether it's from the kind of abuse I survived, whether it's through human trafficking in sex slavery, or human trafficking in just slavery, where globally millions and millions of people are trafficked in the industry of slavery, and there's no quote, it is slavery. In slavery and in / for slavery, but it's basically just slavery, where people really come around to one extent or another to blaming the victim. There are people who have been enslaved and traumatized and brutalized in every single way. And in sex slavery, the typical victim is a prepubescent girl. And she may have seen people murdered in front of her. I don't want to go through all the abuse she may or may not have suffered, because there's a plethora of things that may have happened to her. But many times they don't speak out even when they're rescued, because they have been traumatized, brainwashed, there's trauma bonding. There's all of these things that come into play. Similar things with women or even men who put up with abuse in abusive relationships. And many times people will just come down to say, well, she's staying in the relationship, she must not. She must like it. That's what I mean by the paradox. In terms of rescuing girls from sex slavery, law enforcement is getting better at this. In some areas, there's hope, from what I have seen, where they're able to work around the kind of obstacles that this social worker sort of blamed us on, as if you would have been beaten all these years if you had fessed up at age 7. And come to find out, foster care systems in California are notorious. Some of them are very dangerous. And we might have been treated worse had we been put in foster homes. Who knows? My time's up. If you liked the video or you found it helpful in some way, please like, subscribe, share, comment, commercial, recommend my video. Do one or more of those things. Thank you. Best wishes.